All Tomorrows, a billion-year chronicle of the myriad species and mixed fortunes of man, by C.M. Kosemen. A reading, Part 9. The Fall of the Machines, Return of the Spacers. In the longer run, the internal struggles of the machine empire just might have led to its downfall. But there was no need to wait that long, as the empire died a shorter but immensely more cataclysmic death. For a long time, the machine and the Asteromorph empires had been eyeing each other nervously. They hadn't yet run into open confrontations, as the Asteromorphs kept mostly to their outer space arcs, and the machine empire occupied the planets. In almost every inhabitable solar system in the galaxy, the same upside-down tension built up between organic beings living in the void and machines inhabiting perfectly terrestrial worlds. Power was evenly balanced between the two rival empires. Moreover, this balance involved forces strong enough to destroy planets en masse. Each side knew that any kind of war would result in mutual annihilation, and only insanity could start such a conflict. Well, the post-Civil War empire of the machines did go insane, in a sense. In order to divert attention from internal struggles, it needed a new enemy to consolidate its rival factions against. How unwise that this enemy came to be the Asteromorphs. It is unnecessary and nearly impossible to describe the carnage that followed. The conflict lasted anywhere up to a few million years, and the resulting loss of life, both mechanical and organic, made the initial machine genocide seem irrelevant. When the cosmic dust settled, the winners displayed themselves. The conquerors were the Asteromorphs, changed beyond recognition after 50 million years of continual self-perfection. Their grossly hypertrophied brains stretched out like wings on either side, and their finger-derived limbs had formed an intricate set of sails and legs. Endowed with superior technology and limitless patience, these beings almost completely destroyed the machines, despite losing a substantial number of their own species. The conflict also thrust the Asteromorphs into the affairs of their long-neglected human cousins. As impossible as it seemed, some of the machine's subjects had survived the ordeal. Now, the Asteromorphs could no longer look away. With the machines gone, it was up to the Asteromorphs to clean up after them. They took up the subjects and used their genetic heritage to populate entire planets. During this age of reconstruction, which lasted for another 2 million years, many Asteromorph world builders emerged as true gods, creating inhabited worlds almost out of scratch. Their subjects, meanwhile, became the inheritors of a truly new, war-torn phoenix of a galaxy. The post-war galaxy. When replenishing lost worlds, the Asteromorph gods also took measures to ensure the continued safety of their creations. The abrupt rise of the machines had shown that unless carefully regulated, the wealth of the stars could always host a race of pan-galactic usurpers. The Asteromorphs, watchful but ever transparent, did not want to interfere directly. Instead, they produced terrestrial versions of their own kind to regulate the galaxy. They adapted their delicate, ethereal fingers into spidery limbs and shrunk their brains considerably to readjust to the rigors of gravity. The resulting sideline was stunted by Asteromorph standards, but still it produced demigods in every sense of the word. These beings, known often as the terrestrial spacers or simply the terrestrials, nurtured and controlled the development of the post-war civilizations on many planets. They acted as caretakers, prophets, kings and emperors, but also as grim reapers as the occasion dictated. The endeavour did not always proceed as smoothly as planned, of course. Most of the time the newborn races refused to heed their mentors, and in several cases even rebelled against them. Needless to say, this crime was always punished with a swift extinction. Furthermore, even the terrestrials grew corrupted. Instead of offering guidance, terrestrials on many planets simply played God, weaving contrived religions around themselves to shamelessly exploit their subjects. It was not ethical or even productive, but this method seemed to guarantee more stability than actually trying to bring up the new races. This way or another, organic sentience reclaimed its dominance in the galaxy. The new empire, managed by terrestrials, populated by a myriad descendants of the subjects, and overseen ultimately by the omniscient Asteromorphs, achieved greater progress and a longer-lasting calm in the galaxy than all of its predecessors combined. The new machines. Long after their fall from grace, the machines still clung on to existence. During the initial aftermath of the war, the Asteromorphs had planned to exterminate every last one of them, only to discover that the machines were simply too useful to destroy. For millions of years, they had perfected the interface between mind and machine to such an extent that they could live and operate in the most inhospitable conditions. Such beings, deprived of their galaxy-straddling power, would make invaluable contributions to research and exploration in the new empire. There was a sense of poetic justice in all of this. The machines, who once distorted biological life forms to their whim, were finally treated to a similar fate. To begin with, the Asteromorphs completely scrapped their ability of self-contained gravitational manipulation, the very force that had rendered them invulnerable in the first place. They were given finite lifespans and slightly numbed imaginations so that history would not repeat itself. The degradatory nature of these changes, however, did not imply an overall regression. Unlike their ancestors, the new machines were endowed with nanotechnological bodies that could remodel themselves continuously, which meant that they could come in every shape and size imaginable, and then some that could not. A machine citizen could live for some time in the void of space, conducting research, and then transform into a completely different body plan for a holiday on a cometary halo, tropical jungle, or a methane ocean. He or she would also make the trip personally by growing temporary hyperdrives and ramjet engines. Despite their breathtaking versatility, the machines were never as common or prominent, even after completely accepting their role as lowly citizens of the new empire. The greatest wars in conceivable history had ingrained the organics with too deep a mistrust of their mechanical neighbours, and the new machines were always treated with a degree of discrimination. The sins of their fathers had come to shackle this most splendorous of all human species. Second Contact. With successive waves of machine-aided discovery and colonization, the new empire grew exponentially. Such was the growth of wealth and progress that its description would need the use of concepts that remain unexplored today. To talk with a man of today about the comings and goings of the new empire would be akin to giving lectures of 20th century geopolitics to a hunter-gatherer. This magnificent entity was not blind to the universe around it. It tuned in its eyes, ears, and sensors, and probed the events of the surrounding galaxies. The new galactics suspected that the surrounding nebulae might also have their indigenous folk, and it was wise to contact them before a misunderstanding or conflict could occur. On a darker side, these observations also served as lookouts for potential invaders. Even then, the memory of the Q was not forgotten. The discovery was eventually made. One of the neighbouring galaxies was showing patterns of activity that were the unmistakable signs of a sentient organisation. Some thinkers reviled in the discovery of a new civilization, while others feared a return of the Q. Fortunately, this second encounter with an alien species proved to be a peaceful one. Perhaps the intelligences of both galaxies were finally mature enough to meet without quarrelling. The other galaxy was dominated by connected unions of different beings, presided over by various kinds of amphicephali, bizarre creatures that resembled giant snakes with heads on both ends, one of which bore a secondary retractile body that they would use to interact with the world. Apparently, they had undergone alternating series of regressions, evolutionary radiations, and self-imposed genetic makeovers, just as humanity had. With all of their wild difference, the amphicephali were welcome. They were the first, but surely not the last.